Thank you very much, Matuto. And we're on the same page there. You know, it's sad when we see people getting richer and richer and others getting poorer and poorer. And at the end of the day, actually, I want you to imagine the communities that many of us live in, or have lived in, or many of you live in and have lived in, or we find the most marginalized people in. And imagine that community and just take all the drugs out of it. And what do you have? You've still got the problems. We're not living with a drug problem. We're living with a societal problem, a whole of society problem. And until we start seeing it like that, until we start realizing that it's actually not our personal choice that we decided not to take drugs, but it's actually a set of circumstances that it was unavoidable for us not to take drugs, just as it is unavoidable for them, you know, sorry, for unavoidable for us to take drugs, or them unavoidable not to take drugs. You know, basically what I'm saying is almost a predestiny there. You cannot say, oh, I didn't do it, therefore they shouldn't do it. It doesn't work like that. It's small things, small differences that come from lots of different aspects of our experience that determine which path we walk. And frankly, if we look at the rest of the world, I think that people who use drugs do a lot less damage than bankers. Yes. You know, seriously. So we need to really stop judging. And honestly, people who use drugs are some of the most ingenious people that I've ever met, and most industrious people I've ever met. 40 billion rand a year from bin pickers to the economy. That's a huge amount of money, despite being maligned every single day. Okay, that wasn't part of my speech, but anyway. So, is this on now? The screen, the presentation. I'm just waiting for the slides to come up quickly. All right, what next? Okay. Charity spoke a bit about the CESCR. We've learned a bit about what we learned here and what we had to share. Okay. Now, I went through all the sessions, and I ran them through ChatGPT, some AI, looking for common themes. All right, and it came up with the term, please, free me, free me. No, it didn't. This is the one thing that came out clearly. Prohibition-focused drug policy remains one of the fundamental barriers we must remove before achieving an open, just, and equitable society in South Africa, Africa, and internationally. We will not have a free society while we are incarcerating people. Now, Matuto said we've got a lot of people with the same ideas in the room. We're singing to the choir. I'm going to respectfully disagree with a little bit with that, because if I had made this statement in 2017 or 2016, I would have been not booed because people are too polite for that, but certainly people would have been talking behind the scenes and saying that I was mad. I've been doing this for 13 years, and it's only recently that some people have said, maybe he's talking a little bit of sense some of the time. And I'm not saying that I was super prescient, and that, just that my circumstances allowed me to be exposed to new ways of thinking about it, and I understand fully that people come up with the ideas because they are faced with really difficult situations. And so with a lot of thought, I came up with this vision that I had, which is shared with Sandput and other organizations. But I look forward to a world where all people are empowered and are able to, most of the time, because we never can make good decisions all the time, make conscious, autonomous, well-informed decisions about their bodies, including how and when to use or not use drugs, without being criminalized, stigmatized, or excluded. Now, this also ties into what's going on in Uganda at the moment, okay, where their drug prevention strategy says that drugs cause the crime of defilement, which is a blatant attack on the LGBTQI community. The next thing is a drug policy landscape that does not perpetuate the oppression, marginalization, and economic exclusion of people, including those who use drugs. And the response to drug use, lifestyles, and identity does not increase the harm, restrict people's access to education, economic opportunities, services, and medications, or restrict their autonomy. That, to me, would be the perfect world. And the irony of it is, far less people would use drugs dependently in that world. Because it's only when people have no other thing to turn to that they start turning to drugs in a dependent way. That's the world I look forward to. So I was asked by Colleen, and I shared this with her earlier, how's this thing going? And we've got some principles here. And if you remember, if you were here at the previous drug policy weeks, we said we need to talk about drugs. So we need to talk about the things we don't want to talk about. We need to know the people we don't want to know about. You said, somebody shared here about how they saw people for the first time. That's an incredibly powerful thing, to see somebody truly for what they are and not react in a way that humiliates them. Just to see them as another human being, no matter what's going on. We need to hear what we prefer not to hear. And what we try to do is we try to create a safe space for people to talk to people they would not otherwise not talk to, about the things they wouldn't otherwise talk about. And I'm quite happy, because in these conversations we get to understand what we don't know and who we don't know. And I specifically use the word conversations. These are not debates. They are not arguments. They are conversations. Nobody's trying to prove a point. And I think we've kind of achieved that, because when we hear the chairperson of the Central Drug Authority talking about decriminalization, which wouldn't have happened before, and that's not a reflection on your position before, it's a position of the Central Drug Authority's position before, that's encouraging. When I see a group of cannabis activists sitting downstairs talking to police from the narcotics division and having good, robust conversations, I'm really encouraged. But when I see a drug user sitting down and talking to the former president, I know the world is changing. I'm sorry. I know that we are eventually seeing the truth, that people who use drugs, you can just put a full stop after the word people, because that's who they are. They are just people. And that goes for sex workers. It goes for every person here. We are, after all, just people, fallibly human, but humanly lovable. We need compassion. And that's what I want to say to you all. When in doubt, when you are fighting a fight, stop fighting. Sit down and listen, talk, and understand we are all human. And all of us are just looking to live a life that's a little bit better. Make the difference in somebody's life, please. Thank you very much.